Today was supposed to be the Lally Foundation's Mindful Mental Health Triathlon. We were going to do some guided meditation, some mindful movement. There's going to be live music. We're going to do a community walk throughout Jerusalem Mills. That event has obviously been postponed, perhaps for the fall, maybe the spring. But stay tuned and we'll keep you posted. Today is also the anniversary of my father's passing from his battle of clinical depression that culminated in suicide. Many of you knew my dad. You knew his joyful, gregarious, outgoing nature. Many of you, however, just know him as the namesake of our foundation and a cautionary tale of depression and suicide. That stark contrast between those two is what makes my father and stories like his essential to mental health awareness. Many of us are like me. We can hide our depression and anxiety from the world and do so pretty effectively. That was not the case for my father. He was so outgoing, so just hard on his sleeve at all times that when he would become depressed, it was apparent. It was obvious. The disease was easy to recognize. And that proved transformative for me, especially during that last year of his life. I recognized the disease in him, and it helped me be able to recognize the disease in myself, because I had always considered depression and anxiety to be a weakness in me. And the recognition of them as a disease, as an illness, was transformative. As a disease, it was something I could speak openly about, and perhaps even something I could learn to better cope with and maybe even heal. And so his struggle and passing served as a catalyst for my self-awareness and healing through meditation, and a catalyst as well for my open, honest expression. My first step in that regard was when I gave the words in my father's honor at his funeral. And so as a testament to my father, and as an affirmation of my commitment, our family's commitment, our foundation, our board members' commitment to the community, to all of you, I'd like to share those words I spoke 6 years ago. My father was, and forever will be, a beautiful soul. His passing has left an enormous void in all of our lives, the size of which can only be rivaled by the size of his heart. I've watched him and my mother change countless lives. I thought I knew the scope of his impact on this earth, but in the last 6 days, the outpouring of love and appreciation for the man he was has been overwhelming. Before we reminisce about the beautiful way my father carried himself throughout his life, I wanted to take a moment to discuss his death. My father has been in tremendous pain for the last 12 months, plagued by a disease that robbed him of his most precious asset, his spirit. Most of you know the joyous, gregarious, generous man that my father was. What you may not know is that he battled clinical depression his entire adult life. For the majority of his years, he conquered the disease, but during this last year, though he battled, his mind and body simply became too weak. He lost nearly 100 pounds, many of his faculties. He was no longer able to maintain general health. He lost his ability to carry conversations and his amazing ability to relate to people. He lost his brilliant sense of humor. He lost his faith. He lost every cornerstone upon which he built his life and family. The disease robbed him of himself right before our very eyes. He strived each and every day to rise and shine like he'd always done. The disease simply took control of his mind and body. It was no different than family members who I've witnessed suffer through Alzheimer's or cancer, with one exception: the understanding and awareness of this disease. I wish there was some way to relay to you what my family has witnessed, but there are simply no words. One day last May, my dad was the comedic star of a music video for my band, who had everyone in the room laughing. 3 days later, the depression struck, and I never saw him smile or crack a joke again. 12 months of countless doctors, medicines, treatments, and strategies, and his own steadfast will to recover, and nothing. We mourn the loss of my father today, but my family and I lost him 12 months ago. I pray that his death can shed some light upon the disease known as depression. Because if a man that burned as bright as Ed Lally can fall to this disease, it's far more deadly than anyone is aware. Throughout his life, my dad served as a beacon of hope to those around him. I know he would like his battle with depression to serve as a beacon for others who have or may experience this disease. As a family, we will honor his death and work to improve the awareness, treatment of depression, establishing a foundation in his name. If anyone is struggling with this disease, we stand here, as our Father taught us, with open arms, open ears, ready to help in any way we can. My father taught me a lot in his death, but those lessons pale in comparison to what he taught me during his 67 years of life. I've never known a more generous soul. He never asked for anything. He lived to serve. Along with my mom, my dad volunteered for fish, donating and delivering food to the needy. He established CYO and taught CCD at St. Stephen's, taught pre-Canaan, counseling engaged couples, and served for Marriage Encounter, counseling married couples to improve their relationships. My parents even spent a Christmas Eve in the Baltimore City Women's Prison. They organized it so the inmates could celebrate Christmas Eve caroling. They did so with time enough to take my sisters and I to my aunt and uncles for our annual Christmas Eve celebration. My parents volunteered for all of this while my mom raised my sisters and I, and my father ran his company, Master Graphics. Through the company, my dad donated money, services, and goods to countless charities, schools, and organizations. Kennedy Krieger, Habitat for Humanity, the Greater Edgewood Education Foundation, Learning Inc., Archbishop Borders, Catholic High, St. Joan of Arc, the Women's Shelter, House of Ruth, the Ed Block Courage Awards, Sparks Retreat House, the list goes on and on. For over 20 years, my dad coached the three of us in soccer, basketball, baseball, and softball. At the request of my school principal, my dad even taught sex ed to all the boys in my 7th grade class. Perhaps my dad served his fellow man most beautifully when he and my mom began volunteering at St. Vincent's Villa. Here they were assigned children who had been abused and left with emotional and mental handicaps. They would pick up Kevin and Derek on the weekends and holidays, care for them, take them shopping, trick-or-treating, or even just bring them home to play with Candace and I. They furthered their involvement with St. Vincent's. They became foster parents to Jimmy and Jessica. Our foster brother and sister had been abused by their biological parents, resulting in significant behavioral and emotional damage. My parents gave them safe haven and love enough to move mountains. It wasn't just these large gestures. My dad served in the small moments as well. I received a text yesterday from a friend who said, "I feel privileged to have known such a wonderful man. He really believed in me as a young graphic artist, spent time coaching me, gave me confidence, and helped me open doors." This is a close friend of mine. I had no clue my dad had helped him. My sister Candace heard of an old grade school friend on Facebook who said, "During a school trip in the 80s, I got very sick with a high fever, and your dad hung out with me, watching TV and playing checkers, even calling and updating my parents to tell them I was okay. He was such a selfless and kind man." Beyond the community and our family members, my dad always served his family first. When I was 24, I had a burning desire to pursue music professionally. But I had never even been into a studio and was far too shy and lacking in confidence to even consider this dream. One day while working for my dad, we drove together to deliver envelopes in Harrisburg. On the way back, he pulled into a parking lot and told me, "We are at the Sheffield Institute for the Recording Arts. I set you up an appointment and you cannot say no." He walked me through the door and I haven't looked back. My parents let me build a recording studio in their home. And as I'm sure all of you know, my dad is Fiction 20 Down's #1 fan. Much the same as my experience, my sister Candace told me dad always encouraged and supported her, from swimming to dance to sports to her band and other Lincoln. He even subtly encouraged her to do the right thing when she was too young and stubborn to do it herself. When she was 13, they were headed to Valley View Farms the day after Christmas. Leggings were the in thing, and Candace wanted to rock them with a very short sweatshirt. Instead of saying no, my dad went upstairs and put on a pair of my mom's pantyhose over his tighty whities and came down the steps, grabbed Candace by the hand and said, "Let's go." She went right upstairs and changed. And my little sister Alexis, she's always been Daddy's little girl. She didn't need an alarm. He would wake her up every morning to make sure she was on time for school, college, and work. She had a car but didn't need one. He would drive her and her friends to and from school, the mall, dances. It didn't matter how far. When she was 8, he even offered to take her on her first date to see the movie Casper. She said, "Okay, Dad, as long as I can call you Brian." Dad always said, "Alexis, you make my heart chuckle." There are countless stories like these, not only from my sisters and I, but from my wife Megan, my brother-in-law Tim, my dad's brother and sister, and everyone in our family. He never let us want for anything. He never discouraged us. Along with my mom, he always did everything in his means to make all of our dreams come true. And wow, Mom, how he loved you. I don't need to tell you, as I'm certain Dad already did. He was her best friend, her confidant, her equalizer, her first and only love. Together, they let their sense of humor carry them through the toughest of times. That same mentality has helped us bear these last few days, these last 12 months. My mom always said my dad's greatest gift was his wisdom in all things. When their nephew Kevin died in a car accident at the age of 15, my mom was distraught beyond consolation, praying endlessly for Kevin. Till my dad pulled her close and said, if we were all standing at the pearly gates, waiting to get him into heaven, we would lift Kevin up and say, "Take him, Jesus. Take him first, because he is just too special of a soul." Dad, we echo those sentiments today in your name. Take him, Jesus, for Ed is far too special of a soul. I know he's up there now, smiling down, happy that Candace has chosen something appropriate to wear today. He's handing out Fiction 20 Down business cards to any angel who will listen. He'll be there on Alexis's wedding day to walk her down the aisle with me, and he'll be by my mom's side until the day they meet again. Just as on earth, he will always be there to watch over and care for everyone and anyone who needs an angel. We love you, Dad.